In progress.
Hello and welcome. Today's agenda is to show you how you can upload an Excel sheet and finally make it as a payload and send it to the backend where it is validated and finally put into the database. So in order to do that, we are supposed to actually check what is the where we are right now. So let's go into our project. So you can see the name of the project is payload. In this, we have got an app folder, a DB, and an SRV. In the DB folder, we have got the CDS file, and you might know it, that this is the file that we have. You see, I've got two entities in it, namely students and error entity, which have got the ID, first name, last name, DUB address in it. So this is a thing that this is the entity where we want to upload our Excel sheet. Okay, now inside the SRV where your service definitions are, you need to check this one out. Here we have, you see two entities and they are projected over here, but you see the third one, an action over here, and the name of the action is upload students. So you might have seen these two very often, but maybe you might not have seen this thing. So if you have seen, you must have the idea that this action is actually carrying an action. What it is saying basically is when you get a file, the action says, when you get a file, and that is a file is a string, then upload, carry out this thing, upload students. Okay, so like you have a create, read, update, and delete, we have made our custom made that upload, create, read, and delete, something like that. Okay, it's called as upload students. So this acts as an entity as well as the endpoint, but we don't actually see this endpoint, but it exists somewhere in the backend, somewhere, I don't know, behind the scene it exists, and it also acts as a create, read, update, and delete. Okay, so this is the thing, and we have got a JS file that is called as catservice.js that is actually taking in the payload and doing multiple things in it. So don't get boggled up by the codes, those are written over here. These are only for intimidating people, but they're not that intimidating at all. So intimidating at all. So let's go to our front end first and check out what we have. So in the front end part, we have got an a view one over here, in which just forget these pieces of codes. These are not important. So if you have trouble seeing it, we can just delete it for a sec. And we see in the content, what we have is the file uploader. That is very important. So in the XML view, we have this file uploader. See, this is the XML view in the view one. And you need to call in the library, that is SAP UI Unified. And we have got a file uploader, and that has got an ID. And you see, and the name of the function event, is change event, and there is a name to it, and there's a width. And we have got another control over here that's called the button control, and we have got the text, and when you press the button, you see something. So the app looks something like this. So for a moment, let me just do something like this. So I've removed this part. So what you would be seeing is a browse button. That's this part. And what you'd be seeing is the upload students button, right? So that is the thing that's important for you to actually take care of. And there's another thing. I was just trying to send one payload, means one record every time by pressing the submit button. Okay. And there's another functionality that what if I have got more data, and what if I want to insert all the data in a go through an Excel sheet. So you need to have these kind of things. Now, coming back to a thing. So we start from here. Now, going into our controller. Now, here you see, again, do not get boggled up. It's like there you have got two functions inside the handler. One is this on file change, and another one is this one. That is, when you press the button. Okay, these two things will be taking care of the file upload from the front end side. Inside that thing, we have got an Ajax call and blah blah things are there. We'll go into it once we actually plan to go ahead with the thing. So this is the whole nut and shell that we have. So as I was talking about, we have the view, and once we select a file, this function will be called. So you can even go and check into the SDK, and you can find that thing over here, file uploader. I'm sorry, I'm in the documentation. It should be in the API reference. So here you see the file uploader that's coming from a unified library. So sap.ui.unified.fileuploader. This is what we have. In that, you go to the event and you go to the change. This is the one that we are using. And in that, we have got this change event, and that's got a O control also. That's got O event, and in that we have used the parameter. That's the file. Now coming back to our code now. Here. So this is what it is. Going into your controller, come back. So the plan is, first we actually read the file. Once we read the file, so then we are trying to upload the file. So by reading over here doesn't mean exactly reading the file, but then the file is there. We have attached something, not the content of the file. We just attached a file. So this part over here, the file uploader, does not read the file. I'm going to say the content of the file, but just reads the file. Means there is a file. How many files are there? 1, 2, 3 files there. If it is attached or not. If it is attached, now we need to proceed with the upload. So once you proceed with the upload, then it starts to read the file in the kind of data it has got inside, in what format the data is, and in what format the data has to be sent to the backend, right? So once it prepares the payload, it sends the data to the front end, okay? Now you see over here, I have used srv.on with an upload students, all right? So, but I don't have an entity or any method like create, read, update, delete as upload students. As I told you in the service, we have actually mentioned an action that talks about, when you receive a file, that's a string, then there's what an action has to be carried out. And here we are carrying out the action inside our backend, backend file. All right. Another thing, over here we can see one more thing, that we need to have a module installed, and the module name is XLSX. You can do npm XLSX and you can install this particular module. Okay, now let's start from the beginning now. So once we press this over here, so let's begin from the beginning. Let's refresh everything because I'm already in the debugger mode. So let's go from the debugger mode, okay? What the heck? Okay, there's a problem because they made some changes in the view part. Just undo the changes. I don't want any changes in it. Okay, just even collapse this one too. And we'll start from the beginning, as I said. and refresh it. It won't work. Fine. So in the debugger mode, you would understand what exactly and how it is dealing with each of the things. So do we have errors? I don't think. These are only errors for the ID. Okay, so let's go to our cat service, and we want to debug from the front end to the back end. In order to do that, you just have to come to your back end Node.js code. And when you come over here, you need to put some breakpoints like 1, 2, where you want to put the breakpoints. I have put the breakpoints accordingly. Okay. Now, what we will do, we'll just press this button. Okay. See, everything is ready. I'm just going to press this button over here. So when I press the button over here, it takes me to this point, and so if you press this button, so this kind of a screen will pop up, and in this debug console, you'll be prompted to go to your endpoints, which you have over here, the web app. So once you go into your web app, you get the things, right? We need to put that in a debugging mode so that we can see each of the things those are happening inside our code. So first we put browse. So the file uploader is taking care of this browse, and we have this file, massUpload students.xlsx. So open it, and let me show you the file. This is how the file looks like. It has got the same field as we have in the entity, and we have got 10 records in it. Okay, so, and one more thing, we need to go to our database explorer, and you see how many data have we got in it. So it's still not working. Let me just clear everything, refresh the whole thing, and go into our table section, and right click and go to open data. And we have got this 10 records. What we're going to do, we're going to delete the 10 records by removing this thing and writing delete, and then press this play button. So it will delete the data. You can come back and check it. Now we refreshed it, we don't have any data, so it's okay. Now go to this point. And so once we press this browse, the file uploader, the file change, the name change event has got a name on file change, has hit the breakpoint, and it says, I've just put a console.log that the event has fired. And after that, you move, and we don't need this part of the code. It's not helping in any way. We can just delete it, but then it's it's already there, so let it be there for a while. What we need is that O event, and in the O event, we have got the get parameter, and what parameter are we looking for? And the parameter is the files that we are looking for. So O event object has got get parameter in it, and get parameter, what kind of parameter looking for is the files we are looking for. So we need to move ahead into it. Okay, you see, so it will read the file. It says there's a file of length 1. That means there is only one file. Instead of this whole thing, we can simply write this dot O file, this dot O file equals this array of files 0. Now, let me just tell you what I'm saying. Instead of writing the whole thing, you can just write it over here like this, something like this. Just Okay, so suppose this thing is not there, but it is there for a while. Let me just, no. This whole thing is also being served like this also. Uh, let's go ahead with this thing, and you can further carry on with this particular uh, thing. So actually, it's just checking the file length. If you've got more than one file, then it will go on that way. Otherwise, if you have got no file, then it will give an error. And if you've got a file, then um, instead of, if you have got more files, then you're going to put a 0 and I is instead of a 0. But we know that we have just uploaded one file, so it would be, because the moment you use files over here, get parameter, you can see the get parameter has got files in it. That means it's an array. So if it's an array, that means you need to specify what number of array you have your Excel sheet attached to. So it's the 0, that was the first one. So this is, and so this dot o file, I have made that into a global variable. Okay. This is how it's working right now. So just press, so if it gets the file, fine. When it gets the file, it will go ahead with its upload upload function. So you see, I got the file and it says that there's a file of length 1. So if it's a file of length 1, so put that. So it will be the 0th array and index, and then you have got, you can see this is the file we have got, and this is the name of the file. And I've made that as a global variable over here so that I can use this global variable inside this function. Okay. So, and then it will move on. And since we have got a file, so else won't work. And we move to the next level, and it will wait for this function to be called. So what will happen? It will stop. Once we press the upload students, see, it hits, it bypasses this one. It says that if we don't get any file, if this one is saying we don't get any file, then toast to message. It's asking you to select a file, but if you get a file, so you can carry on with this thing. Here we have used a file reader. So that's another very important thing, that this file reader basically is encoded with base 64. So if it has got base 64, it is good for any request to be sent to the client over HTTP, because raw binary data cannot be handled by that you got from the Excel sheet, and that can't be sent over HTTP. So you need something as a converter that could work on the file and make it sort of a file that could read it and encode it in the base 64 form, because this is the one that we are going to receive in the backend. So it reads, and then after reading, it will convert it. So let's see what we get. So here it's like it will read the URL, okay, and then we will check this thing out later. So what we are asking is that read as data URL, not as, so you can use as read as text, read as buffer, read as data URL. So this actually worked for me. Now it will go for the onload now. So now you see over here, this new file reader is going to hit the target and the result, and it will show what result you have got after it read it. And then it will start to make an AJAX call. So, and here you've got a console.log. So when it makes an AJAX call, it actually, you need to pass certain properties inside the AJAX call. Those are URL, method, content type, data, success, and error. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 properties inside this AJAX call. Okay, so we'll go further into it. So let's move. comes back over here. And what happened? Actually, I did not put a debugger over here, and which is why I did not hit it, but it read everything and went to the backend. So I need to put a debugger first. Let's put a debugger over here, or here, and let's restart the whole thing. We'll refresh the whole thing. Let's start from the beginning. The web app, and again, we just want to bypass this, just browse, and data is here. Open it, and now we're going to use the inspect sources, upload students, and to more debuggers into it. So this debugger will hit once the data is submitted. So coming back over here, okay, which point will be? Oh, read. Okay, now you see at this point, we were talking about, like once you press the upload students, and since the debugger is set over here, it will read as talking about, and once it reads it, and it onload. So it calls a function. So reading is done. So it's just trying to read all the data. And once that reading is done, we need to upload it. So it will call another function inside a function. So you have got a function over here, and you can call this function. You can just keep this whole thing outside, and outside this boundary of this function, and then you can call this function, this whole function inside it by using this dot, whatever you name the function as. So, but we have just put inside this function the same function on load student press, and using the callback. So just this reader, and it continues with the function. So let's go on, and now okay, you see over here. Here is the event. Here is the event. Okay, let me just go one more step ahead, and then it will show me everything. Okay, here is the event, and in the event you see there is a target and the results. So the O event is actually bringing you the target. You see, in that target, I've got the result. So here's the result, and this is the result I'm looking for. You see, so this is the result. So I've hit the results and put that in a constant or a variable called as s-file constant. So after that, I can log it. So if you see the console log, wait for a sec. Console log, this is what you get. Some kind of base 64 encoded data. Now, back here to our sources. After it got the base 64 encoded data, it's going to make the AJAX call. So as I was talking about, inside the AJAX call, this is the URL. And in the URL, you have got the endpoint. So if you want to really see the endpoint, you can go into the CDS run, and there you can copy the endpoint, and that is OData v4 catalog, and upload students. So is it catalog? Just check it once again in our service. Is it a catalog? Yeah, it is a catalog. So catalog students. Okay. Okay, so that's the endpoint, and this is what you have to append before it, and that's the URL. And then the method is the post, the content type is application JSON, and data is, now here we are actually stringifying this file content over here, you see. So let's move and just check it out, what's happening. We move to this point, and let's see what the data is. It says as file content is this type. Okay, this is what we're going to send on to the backend, and if we get a success, then the code will hit over here. If we get an error, the code will come back and hit over here. Okay, so now after this, we're going to hit the backend now. So move it and move it once more. I don't know what the problem is. It got really stuck here. I should ideally hit the backend. So you see here we have we basically require two libraries. One is the XLSX that you're going to install into your package.json by doing npm XLSX, and the other one that is already there. That is your when you do a CDS init, this library, this module, this function, and everything that gets installed in your package.json file. But you have to do npm install to install these libraries. So now coming back to, and you require more modules, like require XLSX, so I got it, and then you move on from here. Now here, if you check, what exactly is the case? We receive the data. So you see the SRV entities, and that's the student in which we want to. Now you see the upload students over here, and in the controller also, in the payload also, we have got, where's the payload? In the payload, we have got upload students. So generally we have this endpoint in the name of the entity, but we don't have any entity called as upload students. But since we have used the action I was talking about, this action called as upload students, it's working both as an entity and the method create, read, update, and delete. So that's working. It's coming back over here. So what we are saying is that srv.on upload, and here we're calling not as upload or create. What we are saying is that upload students, our custom-made one of the ways to upload the data. So those CRUD operations possibly. Okay. Now here, first we need to actually check out the things into two blocks, and then we will understand, rather three blocks, and then we get to this part. Okay. Now we have two things running over here. Let me just show it to you. Inside the try, this is the first thing that's running, and this is the second thing that's running, and this is my, so you saw, and this is my third thing. This is there. So first, let's understand what exactly each of the things actually giving us. So this first thing is, you see the file content, and it says we requested the data, and the data is the file. How do I know it was a file, not an Excel? So I checked out in the debugging mode and got that there was a file in it and not Excel or something else. Okay, so requested data.file, and what we split from the comma, and when we split it, it becomes an array. So it's something like this. We have got, let's say, multiple string, means a string coming that's got multiple things in it. And what we did, we actually broke that thing into two parts. One part and the second part. And it was actually connected by a comma. So I separated it like this and put that in an array. What we are saying is that we want the first one. So this is my 0th one, and this is my first one. So I want this first one because that is the base64 encoded data that I am actually interested in. So which is why we get the file, we split it, and we are and we split it from the place where we have got a comma, and then we have got this one. Once we split that thing, okay, so we need to check the file content, and then we buffer it, and from the file content, and convert that into a string. So we make that the whole thing into a string, a binary string, and by using this particular thing, we are putting that string into an array. First, we are actually putting that into numbers. Those are called as ASCII. And once they are done, it is being read inside this loop, and it reads, and again it decodes each of the binary string that has been encoded with numbers, and it decodes and it gives me the value for each of the ASCIIs. So let's go ahead and check it. So once we read it, finally, the reading is done, and it's now good enough to be converted into a sheet where we have the data, and finally into the JSON format. So once we get the thing into a JSON format, we can put the this piece of code actually is a problem. Means I had a problem because you see over here, you see over here in this we have the ID as 1, 2, 3, and that's an integer. And interestingly, what you see in our CDS model is this thing. Let me just delete it for a while, these things. Where's my thing gone? Okay. In the CDS model, I'm holding this ID as string, but the thing that's coming is in the form of integer. So that piece of code is actually converting the last piece of code. So this piece of code is actually converting the string in the integer into a string, and finally inserting it into our database. And since we are in the debugging mode, we can check out things one by one. So since we are here, let's put the debugger over here and just check out what's happening. So we move further, and we reach to the content, the file that's base64 encoded, but we need to split. We don't need all the parts of it. We only need the part that is in the base64 format, and it's appended with some more thing. So if you press the debugger and see the file content, you see it's okay over here. You put your cursor over here, you see this part over here, from here to this thing. Okay, so this is my first part, and this is my base64 part. Okay, so I have to split these two parts, and from where I'm going to split it is I'm going to split it in the from the comma. So I've got the file. So when I split it, we have got two parts in it. First part is this, but we need the second part that is from here to this part. Okay, so this is what we get after splitting. Okay, so once you split it, this is what you see. You see in the file content that the result is put in this constant, and this is what you get. Okay, once you do that, you actually try to buffer it, and then the file content into base64 form, and then it changes that into a string. So something like this it looks like. Okay, and then it changes into a string. You need to then decode every bit of it into binary string length, and you would when you go by it, this is the length that you get. You see, you get 8,715 zeros over here, and it goes on and on and on. So it has been put into like this, like arrays from 0 to 99 and like that. So each is a like a index. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4 is sort of index. So 0, 1, 2, 3, 4 got index, and each has got a meaning. Each index has got a meaning, and it got a ASCII attached to it that will be decoded by the index that you get over here. Okay, so it will read each of the binary string and then decode itself into the relevant data that we are receiving. So let's move ahead, and it will read 8,700, whatever the number was. So this loop, this for loop will will go 8,715 times over here, and till it reaches, and finally it gets the data, and it will reach, and the data is saved in this bytes over here, I. So you can't keep on going like this, so you have to skip it. And what we see over here is something like this. So it has been converted into the required numbers that we look for. See, these are the ASCII characters. Those are there. Let's go. So it convert all the characters into the required string. Okay. And then finally it reads that thing using the Excel SX and converts it into the data that we look for. So if you go ahead and check out, what we get finally is something like this. So you see our first name, last name, DOB, and a lot of stuffs over here that we made inside our Excel file. Okay, so then if it reaches the next level of code and converts that into a sheet, it says there's one sheet, and let's see, what is that? Sheet 1, and then because we have got only one sheet, that's 0, and if we had multiple sheets, it could have given us multiple value accordingly. And then we get the sheet, and this is how it is represented. But we have to convert each of the things into a JSON format. So using the XLSX library module, we are going to use that into converting it into a JSON format. So now you get the student's data into the format that we are actually looking for. So once we get the data, this is the data that we have. So once we get the data, but the problem over here is we got the data inside it, but then you see the IDs in one, it has to be converted into a string because it's coming as an integer. So we need to convert that into a string, and this is the code that's actually mapping everything. And after mapping it, it's converting that into a string because we need to actually convert the ID into the string. And then finally, so again, it maps over here. It checks out all the records, mapped records, and check the string from check the integer and converts that into a string. So we need to just leave this thing in and come to the next point. And here we are actually inserting it into the student's entity. And this is the formatted student's data. So once the formatted student data is done, we can go ahead with it. So if you have made a payload or into your Excel file where you have into a CDS model where you know that what you're actually getting is in the string, that you're getting is in the integer form, so you don't have to bother about that. But then certain validations, of course, is required because maybe accidentally it has been put into some other thing, maybe a string. So one, they have put a character. So then there would be like a like a letter or something. So you can validate it into your into this before inserting the data into the student's entity. So accidentally the end user doesn't know, or maybe the end user has accidentally put any letter in the ID field rather than putting the integer. So what you have actually maintained over here is an integer at the ID level, but the end user did something else. So you use certain validation checks to do over here inside these things. You can do that at the I suppose at the front end level. So you can even prepare this payload at the front end level, but then the problem is that you need to download XLX because the UI5 doesn't provide it directly. And so you need to specifically download it into the script file of the HTML5 into your index.html, and then you can possibly use it. Possibly, I'm saying, I'm not too sure about it, but you can just give a try. Otherwise, this particular library is not there in the SDK to be used directly into the UI5 applications. Okay, so and there are more things to it. Like if you prepare a payload and before injecting it into the backend, into the JSON format, let's say you prepare the payload over here itself, and then there could be it could have certain pros and cons also. The advantage over here is that you're not putting a lot of load on the backend. So you're just preparing the payload, and so many of the for loops and those things could be skipped over here. So, but then it has got certain disadvantages also. Like the disadvantage could be you don't want these validations to be done at the front level for security reasons. So you want these validations and these kind of checks and balances to be done at the level of at the backend level, so that the data is secured and no tampering could be done with it. And also, the backend is more scalable than the front end, so you should ideally do it in the back end. Okay, so finally you reach to this point, and here you insert your data, and this is the formatted data. We just move ahead. So when you move ahead over here, so it will return a file uploaded successfully. So when it returns, it will hit back the front end. So move from here, and it's done. And let's reach to our say, what happened to this thing? We are into our, wait for a sec. So should have given a success message over here. File uploaded successfully, but everything is gone. What has happened? Let's check out if the data is loaded over here or not. No, no data has come. We really uploaded the whole thing. So what happened? Just need to press this one. Let's move ahead and see what happens. Does it say? And let's see. The code reached the backend? No. That's a problem. Okay, it has reached the backend. You see, now we can check into our database. The data must have been uploaded. You see, we have got 10 records uploaded successfully into our database. And then we can just move ahead and get the success message over here. It says file uploaded successfully, and you can refresh the whole thing, but I've not refreshed it. And then move ahead and the thing is done. Thanks for watching the video.